Hello everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And please excuse my voice right here. I was out late last night having an awesome time getting my dance groove on and doing a lot of singing along to 80s songs. And my voice might be just a little bit raspier than usual, but you know what? I kind of like it that way. And I hope that you are also ready to talk about some RWBY because Season 6 is over, and it was an incredible journey. After two less than stellar and questionable volumes, following Season 3's amazing, dark, and heartbreaking conclusion, this season, Season 6, was the installment in the series that we desperately needed. I myself did like RWBY's Volumes 4 and 5, but I will readily admit that there was a lot of problems with, well, the writing, dialogue, action, pacing, and the freaking lack of information and answers. And then Season 6 came in swinging, delivering on all these counts. From a storyteller and novice writer's perspective, this last season did a phenomenal job. And I want to break down my praise for Season 6 by addressing what I said were problems from Seasons 4 and 5, namely dialogue, action, pacing, and the divulgence of information, and really the overall writing quality. And I'll kick things off with dialogue. With the 6th season, the characters finally, for once, don't feel so wooden and are way more relatable. They have conversations that real people would actually have. Blake's tiptoeing around Yang was executed with painfully accurate realism. You can't help but cringe a little as you hear the misunderstandings between them. There's also the raw emotion between characters and a wonderful sense of hopelessness in their dialogue after Team RWBY discovers the truths that Ozpin has been holding back from them. RWBY and Yang dancing around Crow's drinking problem and then graduating to address it directly shows great character development through just words alone. And the conversation between Jean and the mysterious red-haired woman was beautifully written. It feels like a real and honest conversation between two people who have suffered incredible loss and are coming to terms with it. It was, in my opinion, one of the most emotional moments in the whole season and even in the whole series. It definitely ranks up there. And I'm going to point out that I still call her the mysterious red-haired woman because, well, that is how she is credited in the show. I do have a theory that I want to indulge in a later video, so I won't get into it here. Moving on, Maria's quips and insights were also just absolutely fantastic. She was a perfect gem from start to finish. We got humor, talk about family, and general musings from all of the characters throughout the season. It was good to see the cast not always thinking, we exist only to fight Salem and the forces of evil. Compute. When it comes to writing conversations, they should be akin to how we talk in real life. At least to some degree. You know, it's okay, because obviously none of us here are fighting giant Grimm in our day-to-day lives. If you are, I would love to get to know you. But most of us aren't. So it makes sense when there are fantastical elements or words thrown into conversations, but for the most part, characters in a story should still be relatable in what they talk about. And we are not just single-minded creatures. Next, on to the action. When I did my fight analyses series last year, I spoke about how fights in stories should remain largely consistent. The consistency can be in terms of tone, rules, realism, character interactions, and so much more. But once you've established how your fights should play out, what the rules of your story and those battles are, you need to stick to them. Seasons 4 and 5 largely retired the physics-defying acrobatics, ridiculous speeds, and crazy tricks the characters had made their trademarks from the show's very beginning, and that was terrible. That was one of the reasons why I did like the fight between Cinder and Raven, was because it was a return to form, but even then still, it really wasn't that great. Season 6, however, smartly revives all of that. And it shows with a great display on the train in the very beginning of the season that the fights have not only brought back the great choreography, but also that we can still get storytelling elements now through these stories. It shows how Team RWBY is out of sync and needs to get back together on a mental and spiritual level, not just physically speaking. That is great action when you can still see the progress of the stories and the characters in how they battle. It's awesome! The fight with the apathy in the abandoned farm was another incredible turn of pace. Incorporating Walking Dead-like horror into the show to mirror the depression and the desperation of the cast was another phenomenal choice on RWBY's part. Action can also be an effective tool to display the inner conflicts within characters, like I've said, and with the apathy, it was very, very well done. It shows just not only the sense of hopelessness, but the depression that comes with it. And when we also look at Maria's flashbacks to her glory days, oh my gosh, that was amazing. It was something right out of the early days of RWBY. It was done with incredible finesse, and you get this real sense of loss as you're watching it as well. It ranks right up there with the show's most brutal moments. It was just a short flashback scene. It was fantastic. And can we talk about the final overall battle? Oh my gosh, I loved it. Granted, the giant mech fight with Cordovan and Grimzilla was admittedly clunky, but it displayed amazing teamwork on the hunters and huntresses' side. We also got fantastic dialogue throughout the fight. We saw amazing follow-through with all of the different action pieces. It was beautifully done. It was engaging from start to finish. And I loved that the team pulled out a ton of tricks for this fight. We got to see, for instance, Jean's semblance being used faster than a snail's pace for a change. Ren covering everybody's back. Weiss using her summoning effectively. Nora being the freaking tank that she always is. And RWBY tapping into her silver eyes in a way that wasn't Deus Ex Machina for a change. Can I get a hallelujah? And as a side note for RWBY's final moments in front of Grimzilla, I think it was brilliant how she used Jin to regain her composure. It shows that she still struggles with her new powers and needs more time to activate them. But the flashbacks that we got, both her happy ones and her bad memories, reminds us that she is still a girl who is, like the rest of her team, working through a lot of trauma. And it shows great character progression for her. And not simply one-shotting the Leviathan was good as well. It gives us a nod to what might happen later on when they try to retake Beacon. And it shows good limitations as well to the power of the Silver Eyes. But we also have to talk about the 2-on-1 duel with Blake and Yang against Adam. Now that was a fight that all anime battles aspire to be like. The fight's procession yielded insight into who Adam is from his words and to how his semblance works. And the way Yang and Blake fought together showed that they have overcome the awkwardness and the misunderstandings from the train ride that I talked about earlier. It included amazing acrobatics, fantastic use of their semblances, gritty choreography, and a bike to the flipping face, and the girls simultaneously running that scumbag through. I loved it! Okay, enough gushing about the action. Let's move on to the pacing. The season knew when to hit the gas and when to let off and take things slowly. The beginning was breakneck and awesome. Then we got to slow down and get the glorious info dump that was the revelation from Jin. And then the show slowed down even more so we could be fully immersed in how the team is feeling so depressed after learning what they've learned about Salem and Ozpin. It was grueling, but when the attack from the apathy began, it was a great payoff to the way that things had slowed down. The show speeds up all of a sudden, and we get to see how this mirrors the team kind of coming to from this somber experience, from their sense of depression. It was both meaningful and action-packed. Everything that also happened in Argus was well paced out, so that way it could do a really good job of setting up everything for the final battle. I was really impressed with how the show balanced both speeding things up, slowing things down really slowly, but then also taking it at a good jogging pace to give us time to enjoy the characters and the setting of Argus, but to also carry us through really fast to the final battle. I thought the pacing was overall very well done. My biggest complaint for this season is that the episodes are still just not long enough. At least not the way I would like them to be. And that's personal preference right there. I totally understand that. As a writer, space and pacing play out much more differently in a book and on the page than it does in a televised show. I understand the constraints of manpower, budget, and just simply time constraints. As a writer, though, you need to carefully consider how much time your story needs to unfold. Many wonderful stories have unfortunately outdone themselves, or I should say not outdone, but really have undone themselves because they went either too fast or too slow. We then come to the way that info dumps and overall just information was handled in Season 6. Holy cow, did we get a lot! And I'm looking specifically at The Lost Fable. Not only did Jin reveal the origins of Ozpin and Salem, but we learned about gods, the nature of magic, the need for dust, more about the Grimm, the relics, and so much more. It was an incredible episode. And when I watched it, after I watched it, I wondered if it was just too much, but in the end, it really wasn't. And the reason that I've determined why this massive info dump wasn't too much was because the cast was given a chance to wrestle with everything that they learned. We've seen real consequences to learning what they have, from what the relic really is, the Grimm that it beckons to it, the sense that Salem might be absolutely invincible, that there's no way of beating her, what Ozpin has been lying to them about. There have been doubts, anger, discussions, and chances to gain resolve. We see this when RWBY and her friends have survived the apathy and they decide, against all the odds that they are up against, that they will continue to fight and save people, because that is their job as huntresses, to save others. And for the survivors of Team Juniper, looking at John, Ren, and Nora, they decide to fight on even after everything that they've learned and endure so that they can honor Pyrrha's sacrifice and memory. The way in which the cast deals with this deluge of information is made so much more worthwhile than just simply an epic island of info dumping at the beginning of the season, because we see how they deal with it all. And this is something I'm definitely going to dive into more with my next writer's rant. So please keep your eyes peeled for that, because this is something I really want to dive into. Because I have a hate-love relationship when it comes to info dumping, tending more towards the hate side. But when it is done well, oh my gosh, I'm so enthralled. But it wasn't just Jin's episode that was smartly delivering context and information. We had Maria's flashback and her really brilliant explanation about the Silver Eyes and what they do. And when we get RWBY's own flashbacks while facing down the Leviathan, and we get to see even more information. And oh my gosh, we got to see her mother. That is so cool! And we got to see more about John's family, which was really awesome. And we got tantalizing glimpses as well into what the villains are planning. And we see also honest heart-to-hearts throughout the season between the members of the cast. Looking back, you can just feel so immersed into what is going on, even though there's so much being thrown at you, because it's being dealt with in a very realistic way. So my opinion regarding Season 6's overall writing, finally coming down to the last thing, the overall quality of the writing, I would say that it was excellent. RWBY has not only met the bar that Season 3 set, but I believe that they also raised it. I hope that they can keep up with this trend of great work and quality going into future seasons. I will definitely be rewatching Season 6 again, and I think that any novice writer out there can watch this season of RWBY and gain a lot of writing advice and writing insight from this wonderful installment. But that will do it for now. Like I said, I plan on talking more about Season 6's way of handling information in an upcoming writer's rant. In the meantime, Season 2 for Camille's Harem is well underway. Please go and check out our newest episodes found on Podbean, iTunes, and Google Play. We'd also love to discuss more RWBY and anything else that you have on your mind over at our subreddit. We have art and stories for you to check out on Tumblr and Royal Road, and we also have wonderful writing advice and writing exercises on our Pinterest page. And as always, we search for terrible fanfics out there to do epic readings of for your enjoyment. So if you have a suggestion for us, please tweet it over via Camille's Harem. Links for all of these sites are in the description. And until next time, tschüss.